Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com and owner and producer of Tinnitus Classics. I am so honored, profoundly, deeply honored. Note the pressed prayerful hands here. Prayerfully honored to be able to present to you the first ever recording of a newly discovered symphonic work by Anton Bruckner. You may recall that I announced the formation of the, let me get the name right here, the Musikwissenschaftlicher Verlag der International Bruckner Gesellschaft Linz. This is not to be confused with the Musikwissenschaftlicher Verlag der International Bruckner Gesellschaft Wien. Not at all. They don't like those Wieners. Those Wieners are evil. Those Wieners have been falsifying Bruckner for decades and decades. But now, the Musikwissenschaftlicher Verlag der International Bruckner Gesellschaft Linz is going to do him justice by republishing everything he wrote in every version that he wrote, and some of the versions he didn't write. But most importantly, as I indicated in my news flash previously, they are in the process of publishing in about 160-ish volumes the complete Schularbeit, all of Bruckner's schoolwork, sketches, and exercises, and who knows what they contain. The actual school symphony, symphony number 00, known as the Schul Symphony, was actually listed in his notebooks as Schularbeit number 863, which means that there are 862 prior Schularbeiten that need to get published. And the exciting thing about it is that they have discovered and interrupted the hobby. They were working back systematically through all these exercises, but the scholars working at the Musikwissenschaftlicher Verlag der International Bruckner Gesellschaft Linz discovered as Schularbeit number 647 a entirely new symphony. Now, as you know, Leopold Novak, Hofrat Novak, said that this thing, his Schul Symphony, was his first exercise in symphonic composition, but he was wrong. There is an even earlier one, and I have, on Tinnitus Classics, secured the premiere performance of that initial sketch. And it's only a sketch, I have to say, but that doesn't make any difference because, as you know, this is Bruckner. And the fact that it's only a sketch doesn't mean you can't elaborate it into a fully fledged 87-minute symphony because, as William Carrigan has shown us, it's always possible to go back to Bruckner's original concept. This is possible because Bruckner only had one concept. And once you know what that concept is, the rest of it all just sort of falls into place automatically. But the extraordinary thing about this sketch is how amazingly it foreshadows Bruckner's later efforts in the medium, as well as future music of all kinds. It's really extraordinary considering that it's only about, 40 or 50 bars long. But we know very clearly from the sketch that it is the opening of the first movement, and it contains the complete thematic material of the first subject group of the first movement. No doubt there would have been 3 subject groups, which are probably possible to conjecturally restore from the Schularbeits numbers 646 and 648 through 657, because those Schularbeits all kind of look like this Schularbeit. The logic is really impeccable as far as that goes. But in securing the first performance, we've had to be very careful and promise to play the music exactly as Bruckner left it. There can't be any deviation whatsoever. There's nothing conjectural about this. This is all pure Bruckner, unadulterated, authentic Bruckner. The biggest controversy so far in figuring out what to do with this symphony is what to call it, because we already have Symphony Number 0, Die Nullte, and we have the Schule Symphony, which is also known as Double Zero, and it was thought that Triple Zero was really getting to be a bit much. I mean, who ever heard of a symphony number 000? And there was no point in going into negative numbers because the Bruckner Werkverzeichnis, Anton Bruckner's, the WAB organization, WAB, which has numbered all of Bruckner's works, starts at number 1 and goes all the way up to whatever it goes up to. It's not in chronological order, but it starts with number 1. So what are we going to do with this thing? Call it minus 243? It doesn't make any sense at all. So after an enormous conference at which all of the major Bruckner scholars showed up on Zoom because of the pandemic, of course, they couldn't meet in person. So there was this enormous Bruckner Zoom conference. It took weeks. I mean, absolutely weeks of discussion back and forth and back. It was kind of like, the meeting of the tree people, the Ents in Lord of the Rings. It's Bruckner. It takes them forever to come to any kind of conclusion about anything. It was decided that this should be called the Preschool Symphony, the Vorschule Symphony, out of respect for Bruckner's Schule Symphony. So this is now the Preschool Symphony. Or you can call it 000, but preschool is more appropriate because it's also true to the biographical facts. Bruckner, they say, well, Bruckner wasn't in preschool. This was, he wrote this somewhere in the 1840s. But it's worth considering that Bruckner actually remained in preschool until he was 27. He was a very, very slow developer. And we know he didn't even write his first symphony till he was in his 40s. So he was about in his late 20s when he got out of preschool. I mean, rumor has it he didn't even hit puberty till he was 56. So it's appropriate that we call this the Preschool Symphony. And without further ado, I wish to play you this absolutely straight extract of the opening movement sketch of Bruckner's Preschool Symphony. It's in C minor, which was a very popular key. It's the key of the first and second symphonies, the eighth symphony, and all that stuff. And some of it may sound familiar to you. Some of it may sound like it foreshadows music of the future. Who knows? It's really an extraordinarily prescient exercise that Bruckner would later elaborate more fully into the masterpieces we all know and love. And so, without further ado, here it is. Extraordinary, isn't it? Absolutely extraordinary. This, by the way, this blue thing here that you saw, this is going to be the eventual published score. They haven't given the title page a name yet, but it will be the Preschool Symphony in C minor. And I'm absolutely thrilled to announce that Tinnitus Classics also has secured the rights to the premiere of the complete work, but it will be my pleasure to play excerpts of the piece as they are slowly worked into score by the impeccable team of Bruckner scholars. They're going to make Kerrigan and Korsvet and that crew look like intellectual pygmies as far as Bruckner scholarship goes. They have the ability to compose everything that Bruckner never did. It's incredible. And every version of everything that Bruckner never did. Because not only did Bruckner not complete this symphony, but he did not complete at least 5 extant versions of this symphony. And every single one of those incompleted extant versions of this symphony is going to be published in a completely separate critical edition by the Musikwissenschaftlicher Verlag der International Bruckner Gesellschaft Linz. And I cannot wait to play those examples for you. So keep on listening, folks. There is more thrilling news from the Bruckner world to come.